Greetings, travelers. I wanted to make a quick little video about the hardcore rules for the hardcore community event in classic, Season of Mastery in World of Warcraft. And as we lead, as we are on the road to Ragnaros, kind of in that sort of context. So first of all, you really need absolutely to figure out how to use add-ons in Warcraft and get the hardcore add-on. And it's just called hardcore. What it does, it just tracks your character's interactions. It doesn't let you trade or use the auction house or mail and stuff, so it'll automatically block some things for you. But what it does, it allows you to become verified when you hit level 60, and I know you're going to make it. So when you hit 60, you need to get verified that it was a legitimate level 60, that you didn't, break any of the rules. And then you are able to go into the level 60 guild, which is the Road to Ragnaros guild. And that is then a separate rule set. So those are two different rule sets. So remember, leveling from level 1 to level 59.99999 is one rule set, and then level 60 is then a different rule set. And I'm going to go over both rule sets, and I'm going to go over the leveling one first. First of all, you can stream or record if you want. It is not absolutely necessary or required. You don't have to stream or record. All that means, it gives you a way to appeal. It gives you a way to appeal deaths, and there's a few deaths that don't count, and I'll go into those later. So recording is not necessary, and you probably don't really need to. It's really up to you. I have been streaming just kind of for fun, just in case anything exciting happens. But you don't have to record. So recording is just so in case you basically are on a flight path, you disconnect, you fall off the Griffin when you log back in, and you fall to your death just from a stupid disconnect. That's like one of the main appeals that we've seen. And again, I am not one of the original creators or one of the admins or anything of the hardcore challenge. I'm just kind of translating the rules the way I sort of see them, just sort of in an honorable way, and just kind of trying to play fair. The first obvious sort of rule here is death equals delete. Now, what that means is if you are in one of the hardcore guilds on the Obsidian Edge server, the US West server on Alliance, we have hardcore alpha, hardcore beta, or whatever, delta, no, bravo. Yeah, bravo. Yeah. Charlie, delta, echo, I think foxtrot. I don't know if foxtrot is real. But those are the kind of official hardcore guilds, and you should aim to join one of those because everyone in there is really, they're in for the community event, and they're all kind of playing by the rules. So you can be pretty safe knowing everyone else in that guild is also a hardcore player. So the point about death equals delete is once you die, your character is no longer a hardcore character. And that, at the very, very least, it means that you must leave the guild. You're no longer in the guild. Whether or not you actually delete the character or whatever you end up doing with it, it's just you need to leave the guild. Usually, most people delete their character mostly to free up the name, because then you can just rename your next character the same name and then start over again at level 1. But you don't have to delete. You can leave it as a ghost. I mean, hell, you could just like level up and start raiding, but it's not going to be with the hardcore community. So just remember that when you die, you're kind of severed. You're just severed from the hardcore community. You need to leave the guild, and you're out. You're done. So, we go again, though. I died at level 37 to a coral shark. It sucks, and I didn't see him coming. I'm just stupid. But, I'm going again, and now I'm level 29. So we'll see what happens. Professions, you can use all your professions, no restrictions. Talents, you can use everything, who cares? Gear and items, so you can just use anything that you find anywhere. Like if you can get it from a mob, from a quest, blah, 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 you can use it. And of course, so that really helps to know like where all the good quests are, and like, oh, doesn't that quest give like a weapon? Like I should do that quest because I need a weapon, that kind of stuff. So it definitely helps to go to Wowhead Classic and kind of check some of the quests, see what's good. Maybe see like, oh wow, my chest plate is like 25 levels lower than my level. Like I really need a new one. Like just go to Wowhead and just check for chest plates. Check for leather chest plates and like check for one that has agility on it and be like, oh, it's from a quest. Like let's go do that quest. That kind of thing. So the self found stuff is very important because you need all of your self found power that you can get to kind of get leveled. Because on to the next rule, there is no auction house. You cannot use the auction house. It doesn't exist. It's not there. It's just not a thing in any way. Even in Road to Ragnaros at level 60, it's just not there. There is no auction house. You cannot send mail between players. You can use your own bank, which, kind of obvious. That's just more room to kind of store stuff. Like if you have a bunch of ore, you've been mining a bunch of herbs, maybe a different set, like a healing set, a tanking set, having different gear sets. That's kind of important. Like it will be nice later in the levels at level 40, 50, and obviously at 60. If you already have built sort of a healing set, then you can kind of start healing, and that'll help the group a lot. You also cannot trade, so opening a trade window between two players, you cannot trade with each other. And that includes like water that is crafted by mages, obviously hellstones and shit like that. You just can't trade ever. So the big one here is buffs and player interaction. So you can have any buff you want. I mean, if somebody gives you power word fortitude, like that's fine. Like, get what? A little extra, like 20 extra stamina, 10 extra stamina for 30 minutes. All right, it's not going to make or break anything. It's just a little bit of help. Basically, so long as you do not ask for buffs or you continue like just taking help, like, hey man, can you heal me again? Like, oh wait, can you like come over here and heal me again? Like, can you be my personal heal bitch? Like that kind of stuff. That is just against the rules. I mean, that's not tracked by anything, but the point is, this is very much like kind of an honor system for fun type of event. Like, it's all about sort of the community feeling of like everyone has gone through the same like hard challenges as everyone else, and we all did them by ourselves. And that's kind of the point. The point is like, oh man, it's been really rough up to this point, and now it gets even harder, when you hit level 60. So the asking for player buffs and things, it's like, just don't ask for it. Like if you're about to do a really hard elite quest, and somebody is standing there like, hey man, I'll heal you if you want to do this quest. You really need to say like, no, don't heal me. Please don't heal me because I'm trying to do this on my own, like as a hardcore character. And I don't want to accept like extra help. Like you need to, kind of be aware of, sometimes people will give you like a lot of extra help, but you want to try to avoid that. I mean, it's kind of up to you. I mean, you can accept help. I mean, it's whatever you feel like is sort of the most appropriate level of help. But definitely don't be taking like a lot. Definitely don't have some kind of concerted effort of like, okay, if I tag the boss and then my level 60 friend just comes over and kills it. Yeah, because we're not grouped. Yeah, so it's like, no, it's just against the rules, like straight up. Like, just don't do that stuff because it's just like, who cares at that point? Like, we've been playing for 17 years and you can continue playing for more. But the point about this community event, the hardcore challenge, is for everyone to have that same like rough experience leveling up. And that's really, it would suck to miss out on that. And you also want to get verified when you hit 60. So don't put your 60 verification in jeopardy by doing anything weird. And segueing into, you cannot group. So you cannot group in the open world. You can only group for dungeons. And so for dungeons, you must group with all other hardcore characters. And again, that's another really good reason to be in one of those guilds that I mentioned earlier, because those are kind of the verified guilds, and everyone there is like, well, everyone here is hardcore, so you can basically just type in guild chat like, hey, we need somebody for Dead Mines, or something like that. And so then you'll know that everyone else in the party is also hardcore, so that's a good way to do it. And you can only run a dungeon one time. So you can only run Dead Mines once. So that means you really should get all of the quests and then go into Dead Mines. Because you don't want to be like, oh shit, I didn't get like the quest for this, and it gives a really good weapon. Like, can I go get it? And it's like, nope, can't do it. Like, you got to get all the quests and then go in. Highly recommended, because dungeon quests are, they give a lot of experience, especially with the questing and the elite quest buff in Season of Mastery. And yeah, so a unique dungeon ID. So about dungeons, so we'll go into forbidden abilities and actions. Obviously, you can't Soulstone as a warlock, you can't Ankh as a shaman, you can't Bubble Hearth, you can't use Light of Loon and Hearthstone, all that, because basically not every class can Bubble Hearth. So it's like that would just be a pretty unfair advantage, because a paladin would just be able to do like most elite quests. Technically, they would just be able to do almost any of them. They could just kill one guy and then Bubble Hearth, while the other guys are all beating on him. But like as a warrior, it's like I could maybe kill the one guy, but then like I'm dead. So it's like you're not allowed to die, of course. The store mounts, it doesn't matter. Immortality, who cares? I mean, immortality is like once you hit level 60, like bah, you're good, bud. So PvP and Battlegrounds, you can do world PvP if you want. I mean, it's risky, but if it's like if you want to flex and be like, yeah, I killed a bunch of horde on my way to 60, and it's like, whoa, dude. But like, it's not a big deal. But you're not allowed to do Battlegrounds or use like ranked, PvP to get PvP faction gear and stuff like that. So PvP just really isn't a thing, and I just wouldn't worry about it. That's just up to you for fun, basically. So when it comes to duo and trio, so you are allowed to play as a duo with 2 people or a trio with 3 people. One of you needs to record. The class combination needs to spawn in the same starting location. So that means you really couldn't have a druid and a paladin together. The rule does state if you can get there at level 1 to each other's starting zones. So, I mean, if you figure that out, I don't know. I don't know everything about the game. I guess maybe you could get to Teldrassil at level 1 as a paladin. Like, I'm not sure. Maybe. But that's just one of those rules. Stick together. You have to be in the same zone. So basically, when you get to that starting zone, then you start, and then at that point, you have to stay in Teldrassil until you've done all your shit, and then you both go to Darkshore, done all your shit, and then you both go to Wetlands or whatever. But more importantly, you must both be logged in together at the same time, even if you're not questing, whatever. And that basically means that your slash played on both characters needs to be just about the same. Like, it needs to be within a minute of each other, basically. Be like, hey, man, I'm going to log in and say, oh, okay, cool, dude. I'm going to go grab a glass of water, and I'll be back in like 30 seconds. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, that, like, I guess we can accept that. That's fine. But don't be like, hey, man, I'm going to log on and just like do some, I'll just do some leather working and then like train some skills and like do some, some mining and then maybe turn in this one quest. And it's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you need to both be on at the same time and then start doing stuff. And if you're bored and you're waiting for your duo's partner, just make a solo character. Just make a solo character so you can play by yourself. And then when when you're ready to do your duo, just log out and get on that character. And with your duo partner, if one of you dies, you both die. You're both dead. So it counts as like if one person's dead, everyone's dead. In the duo or trio. And obviously, the main advantage of duo, other than being able to like heal each other and stuff like that, is trading. So you can trade things between each other. So importantly, you could have one person be skinning and mining, and then the other person be, engineering and leatherworking or whatever. And if you're both like druids or a druid and hunter, you could make some leather armor and then have some like engineering stuff. So the trading is a big part of that. And so you are allowed to trade with your duo partner, with your trio partners. And that's it. Nobody else. And then for the dungeons, again, you can only do a dungeon once. You can't reset it, and do it again or something. You can summon. So the it doesn't mention here, but the dungeon, what are they called? The dungeon meeting stones in Season of Mastery, they do function as a summoning stone, so you can use those to summon. So the level range. Your character level must be within the range of the authorized level range. So, I mean, that's basically just this list on this side here. It means, you can't go to Dead Mines at like level 40 and kind of help out some of your friends. Even if you're still all hardcore characters, Level 40 isn't really hardcore because there's really no challenge. So the point is, for Dead Mines, for example, the maximum level is 26. So, which is really high. I mean, you should probably be doing it about 22 anyway, because, I mean, you don't want to go back to Westfall at like level 26. That's kind of lame. Um, so, yeah, most of the time people are doing the dungeons at like a competitive level. Um, and so the quests, you can do dungeon quests as a group outside the dungeon. And this also leads into the grouping thing. I'll talk about both of these at the same time. So you may group up and travel to the dungeon together, but you must avoid killing mobs along the way. And that's, I mean, that's just pretty self-explanatory. Like, don't just start farming mobs and healing each other and being like, well, we're in a group, so we can heal, right? And stuff like that. Like, and don't just, try to be doing quests and doing all this kind of stuff. You should only be going straight to the dungeon and then completing the dungeon content as a group. You should be basically solo before that. And just quickly on that, so remember, Blizzard is still using what's it called, the layering technology, where obviously there's a lot of people online sometimes, so they kind of layer certain areas. So if you're in Westfall and you're fighting pillagers for that one quest or whatever, and then somebody invites you to a group for your Dead Mines run, be aware that if you accept that group invite, you might get sent to another layer and a bunch of shit might just spawn all around you because maybe it'll be, maybe there's nobody there on their layer. So you need to be aware of when you're accepting a group invite, try to be in a place where there's no mobs. Be in Stormwind, be like right at the meeting stone of the dungeon. That's highly recommended. That's the best way to play fair and make sure you're not cheating, but also safe. Just be next to the dungeon stone when you take the group invite. But so for the quests, for example, like the Dead Mines quest, there's 2 quests I think outside of the actual instance in that undead area, and it's a bunch of an elite undead guys that would basically be impossible to solo. So in the rule set, you are allowed to do those quests with your dungeon group. So before you go into the Dead Mines instance, you can go over to the undead area and grab all of those. Or you can do it like after. I mean, if you don't get enough, then you can go do Dead Mines and then come back out of Dead Mines and go straight back over there and complete that quest. Basically just be honorable, be fair about the way that you're killing stuff. Like, don't use grouping as some sort of secret like technique for like, hey, like, since we're in a group, why don't we just do this like quest out in the middle of like Red Ridge Mountains? And it's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. That's definitely, it's against the rules. It's not fun, come on. Because other people, like, they struggle, they struggle to do that quest that you just so easily do. And that's the thing. I mean, most of the world elite quests are just going to be impossible for most people. I mean, you can try them and you can struggle, but honestly, it's better to probably just move on to the normal kind of easier quests in the next zone, or just farm some normal mobs for a while. Some of the elite quests are just kind of too dangerous. It's just not really worth it. So, and that's up to you. If you want to do it, go for it. And then respawns. You are allowed to wait for respawns so that players may finish a quest. That's a big thing, like in Stockades. In Stockades, there's no way you're going to get all the bandanas in one run. But usually by the time you finish the run, the ones at the beginning will respawn in about 2 or 3 minutes after that. So it's definitely okay to finish all of Stockades and then go back to the front and then just wait. And then they will start respawning and you can kind of just kill. I think you need to kill like almost another whole wing. And then that'll be enough for that quest. Just as an example. And then mages are allowed to make portals at the end of the dungeon. What a nice, little thing that would be. I haven't seen that yet. And then quickly here, so disconnect and griefer death protection. If you disconnect during play and you die, you can appeal the death by sending a clip to the mod for approval. So that is why it is kind of nice to be recording or streaming the whole time that you're playing. Because again, if you fall off a griffin, do they mention it here? I'm trying to see. But that's one of the main issues, where if you're on a flight path and you're just flying and then you get disconnected, whatever, and then you log back in and you just fall because the griffin disappeared. You're not on the flight path anymore. And you die. That is definitely a death that you can just appeal very easily, but you need to have footage of it. You need to have a clip to send to a mod, and they will, basically instantly approve your appeal. And of course, it sucks. It does suck to die because then, you always know, like, well, I did technically die. But deaths like that, you really just, it's fine. Like, it's okay to die like that because it's just kind of, the game is a little buggy still. It's, even though it's a really old game, there's just a few little things wrong. But for the most part, it works pretty well. If you are unavoidably PvP griefed, so there are some things about this, but again, just make sure you're recording. That's the only way you're going to be able to appeal deaths like these. But an unavoidable death is like being mind controlled and then getting flagged and stuff like that. But anything avoidable, importantly here, such as Taramis in Stormwind. So Taramis is that dragon that hunters like to kite all the way up from Blasted Lands through the marsh, through Fuckville, I forget, through Darkshore. So they go through Darkshore usually. They might go up to Lake Ridge. They'll go through Aloyn Forest, Elwyn Forest. They might go over to Westfall, or they might just go straight into Stormwind. Just be aware that Taramis, that dragon, does appear sometimes. And that's like for level 20, level 20 humans running around. Just be aware of that. And that's another reason, by the way, to join one of the hardcore guilds, because they usually are talking about, like, hey guys, like, Taramis is coming up, like, be careful, be careful. Or if you would attack an NPC, so for example, there's an option in game to that's called interact on left click. So normally you right click on a vendor or a quest giver, and then that opens their chat pane. But if you enable that option in the game for interact on left click, that allows you to click on something and talk to them, but without accidentally attacking them. So like if you normally play Horde and now you're playing Alliance, and you like walk up to the Horde Flight Master and you're like, oh, hey, Flight Master, I'm going to right click on you and like get a flight out of here. And then you start attacking him, you're going to die absolutely. And that's a avoidable death, and that will, require you to kill your character. So just be careful about right clicking. The left click on interact is pretty good. So if you flag for PvP and you died at PvP, that's an avoidable death. If you manually flag. There are some quests that actually automatically flag you, and I think they've changed. I think they've hotfixed some of them. I'm not 100% sure on that. But again, just record. That's the only way you can appeal, is through recording it, with some recording software or streaming. The hardcore add-on will not allow you to appeal a death, really, ever. It won't allow you to appeal a death. And then, dungeon groups can only be run with other hardcore members. Ask if they're compliant to avoid your run being invalidated. Any deliberate unavoidable griefing, such as attempting to end a group's run by multi-lifing, is open to mod appeal. So anyway, this is all on the website. These are pretty straightforward. Once you hit 60, you do have to get verified. And so, be patient with that. They're usually pretty fast. But that's basically it for the 1 to 59. So when you hit 60, I'm just going to swap over to Nyx. This is Nyx, one of the guild leaders, but he just made this video about the Road to Ragnaros. But I just wanted to highlight the rules here quickly. There is, I'm sure, a more comprehensive sort of rule list somewhere once you hit level 60 and are verified. But the point is that there are some differences at level 60. So, for example, obviously the death equals delete is still very much a thing. If you ever die, you're done. You're not a hardcore character anymore. You need to leave the guild and not, run dungeons with hardcore characters ever again on that character. You need to make a new character. And I just say all that because, if you hit level 60 and you just are tired of leveling, you can keep playing your 60. Play the game. It's whatever. But you're not hardcore anymore. So leave the guild, get out of there, join another guild, do some random shit. But if you want to keep doing hardcore, you need to make a new character, of course. So all obviously all the professions and talents are allowed. You're still doing the solo self-found, so that means you're not allowed to use the auction house. You're not allowed to send mail to people. But importantly, there's a new rule. So now you're allowed to trade with other verified level 60 hardcore characters in the guild. The guild is called Hardcore Elite, HC Elite, on the Obsidian Edge server. So that's the guild. That's the guild that is going to start gearing up. They're going to trade with each other. Like if somebody is mining and skinning, and they just get a bunch of Devilsar leather and thorium and all this stuff, they can then trade it to another hardcore level 60 character in the guild who has leatherworking and blacksmithing, and they can like make things out of that and then like start giving those things to other people. So that's how we are going to try to gear people up and do all of the professions and stuff. So you're definitely not allowed to ever use the auction house ever. But the point is, you can kind of trade. You can trade between the guild. So the guild, it's like whatever somebody in the guild can find, they can give it to anyone else in the guild if they need it. If they're trying to craft like a really rare, a powerful item from a profession, or just they need it for a quest or something like that. So you can trade. And then you are also allowed to group. You are now allowed to group again only with these other level 60 hardcore verified characters. So it's not, you can't just group with random like level 40s and like do some random shit. Like it needs to be other people in that guild. And it's that's very strict. It's very obvious. Like you're just never going to group with anyone that isn't in that guild. You basically at that point, the entire world is just your guild. So, and that's kind of cool, honestly. And then, of course, the unlimited dungeon runs. You're now allowed to run dungeons as many times as you want. So you could go back to Zul'Farrak, and like maybe solo some parts of it and try to get like maybe some level 40 like epics, because those might still be pretty good. Because remember, getting to 60, it's like we're not going to have a lot of gear like really quickly, especially since we can't use the auction house. So finding gear is going to be kind of quite a quest in itself. And so if you end up finding something at like level 45, there's what is the staff called? There's some caster staff at like level 45 or something, an epic. And if you're a warrior and you find that staff, just hold on to it. And if you make it to 60, maybe you could trade it to like some other, like a mage who just hit level 60, and maybe it's better than their weapon. I mean, who knows? So I would just hold on to stuff that you find like that. But that's basically all of the changes. Obviously, you still can't use soulstone or anything. You just can't die. No dying allowed. And they do say Light of a Loon and Hearthstone is allowed, and I would assume that means Bubble Hearth is allowed as well. But I'm not sure about that. Those are kind of like very specific rules, but you could figure out whether or not those are allowed. But yeah, no, this has been really fun so far, and I highly recommend it. Anyone watching this video, I definitely recommend the hardcore challenge in Season of Mastery. Especially like if you're waiting for retail, if you're waiting for 9.2, if Final Fantasy, if New World isn't really doing it for you, the hardcore challenge in World of Warcraft is really fun. It's just fun because a lot of people die, and the add-on tells you how they died, and it even starts they've just added, it actually says what their last words were. So it'll be like, level 27 dude, he died to a boar in Red Ridge Mountains, and his last words were like, haha dude, like that would never happen to me, or something and it's like, haha, like he actually died. So it's just fun, and it's good old fashioned fun. And everyone's kind of like a little bit, like I hope I don't die, like, so it's really fun sharing that feeling with everyone. And we have thousands of players, we have thousands of people, so it's pretty it's really blown up. But again, this website will give you all that information. I think they have the add-on is listed here. And if you don't know how to use add-ons, make sure you learn that for Warcraft and download that add-on for the Season of Mastery. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Just kind of go over some of the rules. Let me know in the comments, if there's anything like really specific. I think I went over just about everything. But yeah, just play fair, just have fun. Don't do anything, out of the normal. Don't like really go out of the way to help somebody, but also, you don't have to completely ignore them. Just kind of play like you normally would. And hope to see you at level 60, and otherwise, die well.